the growing unrest is not just with the G20 meeting, but there is a UN chief now, the head of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, has now warned that failing to act to halt the global economic crisis is going to lead to widespread social unrest and failed states. Basically, he's saying the G20 demonstrations are just the beginning of what we're going to see. Now, think about that. Failed states and widespread social unrest. What we began as a financial crisis has become a global economic crisis. And don't think for 1 minute it is not by design. I fear the worst is to come, a full-blown political crisis defined by growing social unrest, weakened programs, and angry publics who have lost all faith in their leaders and in the future. That's enough to tell you that they know there's a problem. But this is all by design. This has all been created. And this morning, when I heard that there have been about 12 lawsuits filed now for the fraud over the TARP bailout situation, and then one gentleman who announced that he is involved in the filing of lawsuits against the TARP, I mean, who do you file against the TARP, said that there are 12 lawsuits involving fraud. Now, wait a minute. Involving fraud. Since when do we go after fraud by civil lawsuits? Well, should that not be some criminal indictments against people who have misused funds? Is there not misuse of federal funds that might be an option here? Or are these lawsuits to make it look as though somebody did a slap on the wrist to these people? Now, he said, we may never know where the money went. They didn't track it. Now, what part of this was by design do people not get? How can the government, who's got all the auditors and accountants and computers and fax machines in the world, how can they not track the money? Did they go, okay, everybody gather around. All right, here's $1 trillion for you in cash. Here's $1 trillion for you, $1 trillion for you. Anybody else want $1 trillion? Okay, here's $1 trillion for you. And then the next day they go, okay, who wrote down where the money went? Nobody. We didn't know we were supposed to. Does anybody believe it happens like that? Of course not. This is all by design so that you cannot track this money. And then to make matters even worse, today on television, you've got U.S. Representatives and Senator John McCain saying, well, the public needs to stop this giveaway of money. Excuse me, each one of you out there, you tell me if you were involved in the vote to give away money to these people. No, John McCain, you were one of those people. It's the senators and the representatives that have been giving it away for years, and now you have Obama saying, oh, we need to stop this. Oh, after it's all given away and the country implodes. Dave, I understand that Neil Cavuto interviewed Daniel Hannan. I saw that on television, right, and I was so pleased to see it.
But before we get to that, I want to stick on the topic here about this bailout and all this money and everything. I think it's very interesting that finally the powers that be are starting to recognize the fact that maybe these crazy people that were labeled as conspiracy theorists, well, they were right 5 years ago. They were right 10 years ago. They were right 20 years ago. Problem is that they wouldn't listen to us then. And now, where are we? Here's, Dick Morris with Sean Hannity. I think this was the night before last. Listen to what was said here.
There is a big thing that's going to happen in London at this G20, and then they're hiding it, they're camouflaging it, they're not talking about it. Coordination of international regulation. What they are going to do is to put our Fed and our SEC under the control, in effect, of the IMF.
Oh, come on. You believe they'll do this?
That's what was in the draft agenda. They call it coordination of regulation. What it really is putting the American economy under international regulation. Yeah. And those people who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
conspiracy theorists.
They've been crazy, but now they're right.
Yeah, well, when Geithner said he would be open to the idea of...
Wait a minute. What do you mean they've been crazy? They've been crazy? Oh, when did they stop being crazy?
Yeah,
Mr.
when did
Morris?
they all of a sudden...
Yeah, all right, here we go.
About global currency last week.
Yeah.
Those conspiracy people had said and suggested that for years. Right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And, you know, what they always do at these conferences is they have the center show is here, and the side show they don't want you to pay attention to.
Right.
The center show is the size of the stimulus packages.
Yeah.
The real show is international regulation of the financial institutions, which is going to happen under the IMF control. And remember, the IMF is run by Europeans, and the World Bank by Americans.
Unbelievable.
So what he said was, yeah, these conspiracy theorists have always been crazy, but they have been right. They've been saying it right. Now, I love the way that Sean Hannity gives Dick Morris credit here. He says, well, Dick Morris, you're right again. Oh, wait a minute. No, Dick Morris hasn't been right. He's been deluding everybody in the past, along with, you know, his involvement, of course, as an advisor to the Clinton administration. And now, all of a sudden, Dick Morris has had a religious experience. I don't think so. But they can't deny it any longer. They have to admit it now because it's too flaming obvious.
And the problem is that for all those years that they basically did everything they could to discredit anybody that spoke up. If they had listened back then, if they had acted back then.
No, they knew it. Their job was to not react to it back then.
Exactly.
Or to react negatively.
That's my point.
Okay, we're going to be right back after this 4-minute break. I got some info from the UK who says, no, things are really better over here now. Paul, and we'll talk about that after this 4-minute break.